Welcome to Passages. I'm Michael Kigel. We are going to talk about Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our leader. Moses, our teacher, actually. And we have with us two fine scholars who are going to tackle the subject. Dodi-Lee Hecht, who's a recent graduate of Yeshiva University in New York and is just about to enter law school at Columbia, and Professor Dr. Selma Sage, Professor Emeritus of York University and the University of Toronto. So who'd like to start on this topic of Moshe? Selma?
I'd like
Who's going to lead us in leadership?
I would like to start only because when I realized I would be discussing this with Dodi-Lee, and we're at two different stages of life, two very different stages of life, how enormous the range of Moshe's life is, and how little I understood it when I was younger. He was my hero. I never loved him as much as I loved King David, but nevertheless, as I grow older, I feel Moshe in my heart. And I was wondering how you, as a young woman, feel about Moses, and wherever you want to start, because the scope of his life is so enormous, Dodi-Lee. I always felt that he was never of this world, that he stood somewhere above us. He's surrounded by women, and yet he's above them. He's something beyond us.
Well, he's above the men as well. I mean, he's definitely completely. It's funny because I think when I was younger, Moshe was such an obvious choice in my mind as a favorite character that I kind of shied away from him and tried to find other characters that I appreciated more. But recently, yeah, because there's so much you can.
It's like Superman. It's blasé.
Yeah, he's almost like Superman.
You have to go for Thor or something like that.
But then he becomes more Batman-like. Actually, the more I see about
Kal-El. Is that the father of Superman?
That's
Kal-El.
right.
No, that's Superman.
It's Brando in any event.
But it's the voice of God.
Oh, I see. Right.
That's true.
Yeah. Sorry.
But with the comic books, yeah. No, but he definitely is much more intriguing to me more recently because he seems to be in turmoil about his own role. Like it's almost like he's reluctant to be doing what he's doing. At the same time, he seems to have an inner urge to constantly step forward. So to me, that's, I guess.
But isn't that the fate of every leader, to have that difference of the inability to choose, the pain that he suffers in having to make a decision, having to lead our people. My goodness, we were stiff-necked, and there's no other translation. We annoyed the life out of this man.
Yeah.
You know, I must tell you this story. I was in Basel for the 100th anniversary of the first Zionist Congress that Herzl had, and a wonderful speaker came from Israel and compared Theodor Herzl to Moses. And I thought, oh no, you can't do that. And then he went on to say that both of them were brought up outside of the Jewish people, Moses and Herzl, and both of them chose to lead the Jewish people because they didn't know us. If they really knew us, neither one of them would have taken the job. What a miserable people to have to lead.
Well, Moshe didn't choose. He walked away from it.
He tried to get out of it, very much so. Yeah.
He got pulled in. Godfather, if you want another reference.
Just what I thought I was. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, so
you don't think that he understood that there was something greater going to happen for him when he stood in front of that bush? You think he really wanted to get out of it?
Well,
and if so, doesn't every leader would you want to be the President of the United States right now?
Not really, no.
I don't think so.
No way. It's the
You're saying it was genuine or mock modesty? Modesty.
Well, you know, we have that famous place where he says he's the most humble man in the world,
yeah.
But I don't think that anyone can lead if they have that stage of humility. This is a man who murdered.
Yeah, that's the first thing
This
we
is
know
a
about
man
him.
who murdered. This is a man.
He's a tough man. There's no question.
Yes.
Who's a temper, who's rash sometimes.
Violent.
Yeah. But
this is a man who turned his wife away. I always think of Gandhi in that. Gandhi did that too. Turned his wife away.
But he doesn't do these things because of his own impulse. It's not that he wants to turn away from his wife. It's that the role is so exalted that he can't but turn away from his wife. It's not. It would be wonderful to interview Moses. You know, how did you feel about that? How did you had a falling out with your wife, or what was it?
Yeah, but if Miriam and Aaron couldn't even approach him to ask him.
Yeah.
But the one who did approach him was Zimri in the story of Pinchas, who was able to pierce him with that question. If it was good enough for you, uncle, to marry a Midianite, to take a Midianite woman, then it's good enough for me. And then Moses was not a leader. Moses became passive. Moses withdrew. He could be vulnerable. I find his leadership absolutely remarkable. A good leader has to help people to follow him. And somehow or other he was able to do that. Whether he was modest or not, whether he was humble or not, whether he was a nasty guy to women or not, doesn't matter. He was able to inspire.
To inspire, yes, but to touch the people, to get to them, like, I think he needed Aaron for that. I don't know if he necessarily understood them well enough. Or maybe understood them from, like you said, he stood above them. Maybe almost as an observing. And he was very perceptive. In that capability, he could understand them. But I don't think he really got them. I mean, that's why, more than the fact that the speech impediment or whatever other reasons that he needed Aaron, I think he needed Aaron as his go-between.
To soften him.
Yeah.
To soften him. Perhaps. I've never had a brother. You have brothers. Maybe.
On that maybe, let's take a definitive, decisive commercial break, and we'll be back in a few minutes with some more.
Hello, it's me, your mom. I left you a message this morning. You're very busy, I know, but I do love our little chats. That's why I switched your father and me to Roger's home phone. I kept the same phone number and they took care of the details.
Switching to Roger's home phone is easy. You can keep the same phone number and installation is free. Choose Roger's and pay only $19.95 a month for 6 months.
I also got an unlimited long-distance plan, so I can call you whenever. And if I catch you at a good time, we can talk for as long as we like, which I like. I get more to brag about that way.
With Roger's home phone, you get reliable service from a company you trust. You choose only the calling features you want in the long-distance plan that suits you.
It's your brother. Hi, honey. Oh, yeah. Well, is the iron plugged in? Uh-huh. Okay.
Say hello to Mom. Say hello to a better home phone service built around you. Roger's home phone.
I've been a part of the War and Chat program because I was born with only one hand. They cover the expenses of my arms and all my different devices.
They are there to answer your every question, the services they provide, the financial help, the emotional help, the information. The War Amps has certainly eased the path quite a bit.
When I look at all the things that I've achieved, it's because I practiced and I was confident in myself.
Erika's moving right through life and enjoying it. She loves life.
You have to believe in yourself and you'll achieve your dreams.
Entertainment Extra.
Believe it's no secret that many of Hollywood's youngest stars are homeschooled. One of the latest celebs to hop on the bandwagon is Fresh Prince star Will Smith, who insists on homeschooling his 2 children with wife Jada Pinkett Smith.
station KCBE. Congratulations, guys. You did it.
We did?
That's right. Now, what are your names?
Well, I'm Innocent Will, and this is Uncle Phil, the attorney at law, and this is Little Carlton. He's trying to find his way back to the circus.
Be sure to visit ctstv.com for Entertainment Extra. I'm Tanya Prokomenko.
Tanya's wardrobe and jewelry provided by Lisa Hill, clothing designer of the elusive butterfly, located in Ancaster.
Welcome back. We're talking about Moshe Rabbeinu and his leadership. And Dodi, you were saying something that makes me think of Henry V. There's this wonderful scene, in Shakespeare's Henry V, where the king comes down on the eve before battle to be among his people, among his soldiers. And it's a wonderful scene. It's so tender because here you have the one who is the leader, and he's coming down he wants to know, how is the average soldier feeling on the eve before battle? So what you're saying suggests that Moshe is not capable of that. He's somehow so lofty, so beyond the people, he can't even communicate with them.
Well, I don't know if it's a capability. I think that it's the path his life took, that he couldn't be the people's leader, because what he was destined for was something too unique. Like, in a way, Moshe, the way we think about Moshe parallels God. We'll have to, like, to separate.
I hope you don't mean that. You don't mean that.
In the sense of being unique. We talk about Moshe being the only person like him in all of history.
Unique.
So, no, not beyond that. But in terms of the uniqueness of God, it's definitely there, the uniqueness of Moshe. So,
he's God's unique servant.
He's God's unique servant, yeah. He's the only one who spoke to God face to face.
Yeah.
And he's the one who's chosen to be the leader at Sinai, which is a huge thing when you think about it, because that's another singular moment in history. So everything about his life is unique. I don't think he could afford to be one of the masses.
Well, as you stated, there are three pivotal moments in the history of the Jewish people: creation, redemption, and revelation. And Moses is there for two of the three. We cannot tell our Jewish story without talking about Moses. There is no way that we could ever begin to tell anyone who we are without talking about Moses. Could he speak to the people? Did he walk among them like King Henry? I don't think so, but he was there. My father always used to call him the first public health officer in history. My father was a physician, and so he's looked at Moses as a physician. He said, this is a man who cleaned up the camps. He was remarkable. Another might see him as a military genius. Was he a genius in human relations? Watch him interact at the story of Korach. He knew what to say and when to say it, and he wasn't dependent upon Aaron. He told Aaron what to do. He had many areas of genius. The only one for me that he doesn't have is romantic. I don't see him as a romantic hero. Other than that, he's unique.
Well, I think he is. I think he does have a romantic side to him. I just don't think it's with another person. I think he has a romantic relationship with God.
Yeah.
That's lovely. So.
Hareini nas kodecha, show me thy glory.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's he's very forward also in that relationship. It's almost like that relationship compels everything else, because it's, like it says with the burning bush, that he first saw it and he approached it before God called to him. He's constantly going forward, trying to have this close relationship with God, and on the side he has to do all these other things. But I'm curious about what you said that with your father. I wonder if that's a common thing, that people see in Moshe what they themselves aspire to be.
Oh, I believe that is so. You can play a little game with it, Dodi-Lee. At the Chavorat Shalom, the very first Chavorah in Somerville, Mass, in the 60s, before either of you were there was a Wednesday night dinner pattern, and it was, what aspect of Moshe do you feel?
Right.
What is you? And each person would have to identify what part of Moses was within them. And each of us felt a different Moses.
how does he qualify as our leader if you say that he has a romantic relationship with God, which almost suggests that if had it been up to him, he would have been up on the mountain all the time with God, one-on-one, doesn't need to be with the peeps. And yet he is the most qualified in God's eyes to be with the people.
Absolutely.
So how could, it sounds paradoxical, how could he be the most qualified, and yet we're saying he's not like Henry V, he's not the man who can talk to the people. For that we need Aaron, right?
Well, I think this is going to simplify it, but let's just say in a broad sense, Aaron loved the people, and so he loved God. Moshe loved God, and so he loved the people.
Oh, that's nice.
That's very nice. Very nice.
I don't know if it applies across the board. But I think that's a generally...
There's something sad about it, though. But yeah, okay, go with that. I like that.
But there is a sadness to Moshe at the end of his life. There is a tremendous sadness. The Midrash just dwells on the sadness that he felt. That his life was over, and the Midrashim are how his soul didn't even want to leave him. A sweet man. He wasn't a sweet man when he started, though, was he?
No, I never see him as sweet. I don't
think at the end, he's a sweet man. Yeah, he's approachable.
He's a bit tormented at the end.
Yes,
so
there's a sadness there.
And it softens him.
Well, why is he tormented? What is the source of his torment?
Well, it seems to be two things. He wants to be able to set foot in Israel, and he wants to stay alive a little bit longer, at least. Maybe just to set foot in Israel. But that seems to...
It's just funny, given what we're saying again, which he's not a man of the people. Why would he care about Israel? Wouldn't he say, oh, finally, good riddance, now I can be alone with God on the mountain?
I don't know.
I think Israel is supposed to be well, like I said, because what he loves because he loves God. If God loves Israel, and he loves God, he wants to see this land that is the culmination of everything he's been doing for God for his entire life. To not reach that point, it's almost like I'm trying to think of a good example of this, but because God held Israel in such high esteem, both the country and the nation, Moshe grew to love both.
If you use a model of a parent, it's kind of, this is upsetting me, even though I actually agree with you, but I find it upsetting. If you have siblings that love each other, and the parent is looking on, the parent is very happy, even if it's a rambunctious sibling, with the parent, at least they love each other. But to have this sibling who learns to love their siblings only because the parent loves the sibling, to say, oh, you love my brother, oh, okay, then I'll love my brother. There's something sad about that, a real disconnectedness.
There's sadness in the fact that he began by crying, Moshe. We hear him first in coming down in the Nile, and the baby is crying, and the Midrash says he was crying for all the things that he would encounter. Even as an infant, he understood the sadness and the immense pathos of the life that he was destined to lead. The baby was crying.
It makes he was completely cut off from humanity at that point.
Yes.
His mother, above all, but completely. He's just in water, swimming in water.
What does Young say about the beloved youngest child?
I don't know.
Yeah, because he is the youngest child, and he is the beloved. And he's cut off from that nest of love, that nurturing.
And then his entire life repeats that.
I'm sorry, we have to take another break, and then we will return to how his entire life repeats that.
Home to migratory birds, moose, and more, the boreal forest supports many species. It covers more than half of this country's landmass and is part of a much larger global ecosystem. By working together to balance the requirements of people and nature, we can ensure that the ecosystem in the boreal forest continues to meet the needs of future generations.
To learn more, visit hww.ca.
Huge sale. Everything must go. Limited time only offers. Come on. Push your hands in the air.
Hey, you are powerless to resist me.
Hello? This call is like major. Darling, we simply must look our best.
Hey, has anyone seen my beaker?
Extra.
Suzanne Summers has come under fire from doctors who believe her new book, Ageless, makes promises that far exceed scientific fact. In her new book, Summers champions hormone therapy, claiming it can help stall the aging process. Well, one thing's for certain, at 60 years young, she still looks fabulous.
Dina, I know your intentions are good in your neurotic, obsessed, master race kind of way, but may I point out that we are her parents, you are not. If you want to screw up a kid, have one of your own.
And, that is something I'd be very happy to help you with.
Easy, Romeo. I still got my truck.
Be sure to visit us at ctstv.com for Entertainment Extra. I'm Tanya Prokomenko.
Tanya's wardrobe and jewelry provided by Lisa Hill, clothing designer of the elusive butterfly, located in Ancaster.
Welcome back. We are talking about Moses, and we've sunk into this certain sad, melancholy perspective on Moses. I wonder if he would like that. I wonder if he saw himself as a kind of romantic, melancholy poet looking onto the land of Israel into which he could never enter. Or was there actually something extremely joyful about Moshe Rabbeinu? I have to believe there is.
I
can't think
believe
otherwise.
that there is. There are lots of moments in his life. I think that when he was the Prince of Egypt, he was a strong and joyous man, and strong and self-confident.
Oh, no, but that's okay. I'm sure you're right, but I don't want to think of him as happy then.
When he crossed the desert, the Sinai, the first time to come to the land of Midian, he did it. He succeeded, and he found a beautiful woman. I think he was strong and happy then. He, even at the burning bush, as much as he may complain and not feel and want to take the job, he was chosen for that job. You know, there couldn't have been anyone. So there must have been something very special about him. When else is he joyous? Let's find some places.
Well, I think joyous might be a word. I think he was accomplished. He definitely sensed that he succeeded in what he was supposed to do. But you seem to have
he was joyous when he met Yitro.
Yeah,
that's true.
There is a wonderful moment of an embrace there. And there's a
maybe, you know, I don't know, I have no basis whatsoever for this, but I always thought that he was, I never forget that he was 80 years old at the burning bush. But he was already, he'd lived a full life. So I always imagined that he was actually happiest in his life as a shepherd until then. Well, after then, it's hard to say. Is he happy? Is he sad? He seems, but until then, he was a simple shepherd with a happy marriage, possibly. And when he sees Yitro, he's here's the Machatainim, right? No, he sees his father-in-law. He's very happy.
But those numbers are just numbers.
Why? Oh, you don't think he was?
No,
because they're all. Like
40, 80, 120. Come on.
Yeah.
Why?
120 is a wonderful number, says the lady. 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5.
Factorial.
What is it? It's 120.
Is it really?
It's a magic number.
So it's 5 factorial.
And it's 4 times 40. There's that wonderful 40 coming up again over and over. That's not a real number. He's a man in his middle years.
Really? Okay, and biblical middle years. That's
yeah.
Biblically speaking, in his middle years. Yeah, he's a third of his. No. Can you help me out here? 80 out of 120. Yeah, of his life.
Give me all the bad math.
All the bad numbers.
Yeah. So you don't think those years are necessarily as happy? You see it. I like this idea of accomplishment. I mean, accomplishment, you see accomplished people, like great rebbes, for example, don't strike me as being particularly happy people.
No.
But their sense of accomplishment is so profound.
Yeah, that's a good word to have chosen.
That their joy is much greater than anything that even happiness could fathom.
When he first appeared with the aura around him, he must have been happy then.
With the aura, when he comes down from the mountains.
Well, unless he's sad to be leaving God.
Oh dear, we're back to the sadness.
No, but I think the accomplishment really is something. I think that at the end of his life, when he looks over and he sees that he's brought them this far, even if he can't get over there, even if he's not going to watch them cross into Israel, I think that is. I think he's maybe not happy, maybe not even content, but he's. Well, you used the word before, triumphant. I think there's a sense of triumph in what he's accomplished. I mean, he started out, what did he start out with? He started out with one act to protect, or not even to protect, but to avenge one Jew. He killed an Egyptian. And that's the first act he does that we know about, that is an act of a leader trying to do something for his people. And he goes from that one act to bringing them out of Egypt, across the desert, right to the doorstep of Israel. On the way, picked up the Torah. I mean, it's a great thing.
While traveling.
Right.
Yeah.
Stop for a coffee and some
tablets.
Some divine wisdom.
Yeah.
Well, don't look at me. I'm seeing him on the final stretch, looking out as the text describes, starting with the north and moving to the center, to the Great Western Sea, and moving to the Negev and to Jericho. I don't know. Was Theodor Herzl sad when David Ben-Gurion had to finish his job? Was Moshe sad when Yehoshua had to finish his job? I don't know.
Well, even that almost leaves the question.
The learning never ends. The learning never ends. Thank you for joining us on Passages. For your Kabbalistic Jolt of the Week, stay tuned for messages. Up next.